Before getting started, a quick warning that this video will contain spoilers up to the end of episode 2. The Bad Batch are on their way to visit a fellow clone deserter by the name of Cut Lawquane, seeking advice on how to lay low and evade the Empire. Echo asks Hunter what they're going to do with the most recent addition to their party, Omega, as she's only a child. Before Hunter has time to contemplate the dilemma, Tech speaks over the intercom informing the crew of their imminent touchdown on planet Seleucami. It's a temperate planet, one with plenty of wildlife abound. While nothing extraordinary for the Bad Batch, for Omega, it's her first time on any other planet besides Kamino. Because of this, details as trivial as the shining sun, the scent of plants in the air, and the dirt on the ground are all amazing novelties to her. Seeing a storm brewing on the horizon, Hunter urges his troops on towards their mutual acquaintance. All along the way, Omega drinks in her surroundings on this strange and new world. She's stopped by Hunter a few inches short of triggering a tripwire set up by the runaway clone to signal potential intruders. Confident that this is the only obstacle, Wrecker steps over it and marches forward, tripping a second trap only 2 steps ahead. Multiple droid dummies spring up all around him and Wrecker blasts 2 of them to bits before Hunter is able to calm him down. In doing so, he draws the attention of Sue, a Twi'lek woman with a knack for sharpshooting, along with her husband Cut, the runaway clone. Luckily, these two are the type to assess the situation before opening fire, and they quickly recognize their long-lost friends. At the couple's humble abode, Hunter introduces the 2 additional members of the squad, Echo and Omega, to the Lawquanes. Cut also addresses the one member that's missing, Crosshair, to which Hunter explains that it's complicated. Cut is all too aware of the complicated nature of recent events. Apparently, Clone Commander and longtime friend Rex paid Cut a visit only days before and told him about the inhibitor chips that were used to control the clones and turn them against the Jedi. Even though Tech mentioned that the regular clones or regs were programmed, he never mentioned the chip. Tech justifies this omission by claiming he thought it was an obvious detail that didn't bear mentioning. Before Hunter has a chance to rib Tech, the 2 children of Sue and adopted children of Cut, Shea and Jack, burst into the room, overly excited about the ship outside. Finally taking notice of the guests present, the children share a reunion of their own with Uncle Wrecker. Shea spots Omega, and with a nod of approval from Hunter, the 3 children head outside to play. While the game of catch is simple enough, for Omega the concept is entirely foreign. Watching over his charge, Hunter fills Cut in on the details of the precocious child. He explains that Omega is a defective clone just like the rest of the batch. Cut reminds Hunter that they were all made defective for an intended purpose and that she is no different. This foreshadows a purpose or role that Omega is intended to fulfill, one that's currently unknown. However, Hunter isn't concerned with that purpose. At the moment, Omega is just a kid. This leads to Cut warning Hunter that battling droids is far easier when compared to the task of raising a child. Hunter protests that they didn't have a choice. Kamino wasn't safe for their kind anymore, so they had to flee. However, Seleucami isn't safe either, according to Rex's intel. Hunter accompanies Cut into town as the latter attempts to book transport off-world. At one point, Cut shares an important lesson with Hunter that in order to disappear, he'll need to put being a soldier behind him and make a new life for himself. Walking through the streets, the 2 clones take note of multiple signs that the Imperials are taking over. Ships being seized, patrolling guards, Imperial talking heads, and the new chain code requirements for anyone seeking legal passage off-planet all hint at the unpleasant presence sweeping over the once peaceful town. Oppressive atmosphere aside, the most immediate concern for Cut is that he and his family will need to register for chain codes if they want to leave the planet inconspicuously. The issue is that if Cut tries to register for a code, he'll be found out as a deserter and arrested on sight. Back at the Lawquanes, the children continue playing their game of catch, but Omega accidentally throws high and the ball flies beyond the perimeter of the fence. Because of this, Jack tells Omega that they'll get it later but doesn't explain why. He runs off to join his sister to finish packing, leaving Omega to make an understandable yet foolish mistake. Slipping past the fence, the young clone snatches up the toy easily enough. She soon recognizes the error in her ways, turning around to find a wild Nexu stalking towards her position. Jack warns Omega not to make any sudden movements, and Shea runs to get help from their parents. The Nexu is about to pounce. Fortunately, the adults rush in to save the day. As it leaps towards Omega, Sue uses her long rifle to blast the beast in its four-eyed face, momentarily stunning it. Knife in hand, Hunter places himself between the predator and its prey. The Nexu retreats back into the wild, bringing the traumatic experience to an end. Safely back behind the fence, Hunter turns to reprimand the young soldier, only problem being that Omega is no soldier, she's just a kid. Placing a hand on Hunter's shoulder, Cut reminds him of this fact and takes a gentler approach, comforting the scared girl as she apologizes for her foolish mistake and reassuring her and the others that everything will be fine. Tech interrupts with his own analysis of the commotion, which is that it could have gone much worse. At this point, Hunter asks if Tech can forge some chain codes so that Cut, Sue, and the children can board a shuttle and get somewhere safe. Never one to overestimate his own abilities, Tech asserts that he can. Omega takes refuge aboard the Bad Batch's shuttle. Gazing at the pendant that was given to her on Kamino, she feels homesick for the first time in her life. Back at the hut, Sue and Hunter have a heart-to-heart. In light of Omega's recent actions, Sue explains to Hunter that children will always find a way to get into trouble. Taking on the parental role entails protecting them from that trouble. Shortly thereafter, Cut joins in on the discussion. Hunter tells Cut that he doesn't feel himself capable of looking after Omega and asks the practiced parents to take her in as one of their own. While they don't have any personal qualms with the request, the couple insists that Hunter thinks over whether this is what he truly wants and also if it's best for Omega. Aboard the ship, Tech explains his plan for obtaining chain codes to Echo. The Imperials control the spaceport, and if they can get their ship seized and marked as abandoned by the Empire, they will essentially be escorted directly into the port. It's your basic Trojan horse tactic. Once there, the two stowaways can tap into the network and replicate the codes. Tech puts his plan into motion by calling in the authorities, then informs Hunter about the plan. Hunter is a bit more peeved than one might expect when he learns about the plan, though it's quickly explained why when he informs Echo and Tech that Omega is still on board the ship with them. With the plan fully in motion, all involved have no choice but to carry on. Tech and Echo plan to meet with Hunter and the others at the spaceport, chain codes in hand. Arriving at the impound lot, the ship is subjected to a half-hearted inspection from the regular clone troopers. After that, the three modified clones emerge from their hidey hole and get to work. Echo surreptitiously makes his way over to the security kiosk, catching a lucky break as the on-duty guard leaves his post. Heading into the booth, Echo uses his socket arm to tap into the network and copy the chain code data. He also bypasses the security lock on a nearby safe and retrieves the blank disks for Tech to program before heading back to the shuttle. Meanwhile, Hunter, Wrecker, and the LeQuains arrive at the spaceport and call in to Tech for a status update. Tech responds, saying, "In progress." Doing their best to appear inconspicuous, Hunter and the others make their way towards the security checkpoint. As Tech finishes programming the counterfeit chain codes, he and Echo are drawn to the window by the chatter of nearby clones, at least a dozen of them. The two experienced soldiers contemplate how they'll manage to slip past the large number of guards, only then noticing that Omega has already taken the codes to deliver herself. Tech informs Hunter about the unanticipated change in plans, and Wrecker heads off to ensure Omega makes it safely. Meanwhile, the clone deserter and his family don't have long before reaching the inspection point, and if they don't have the chain codes by then, their cover will be blown. Echo gets to work on the boot locking down their ship. Despite being able to interface with the lock, he's having trouble getting it to respond, and is soon spotted by a patrolling guard. Tech is able to hit the guard with a stun round, but not before the clone in white sends out a half-set communication on the local network, alerting the other guards. Omega tries to make the most of the distraction, but stumbles into an astromech. Perturbed, the droid begins releasing a series of high-pitched whines and beeps, threatening to give away Omega's position. Where Omega's commands to stop fail, Wrecker's fist succeeds, and he smashes the mech into a state of robotic unconsciousness. Omega heads towards the dock, and Wrecker goes to lend an assist to Echo and Tech, momentarily stopping to clank the heads of several clones together, knocking them all out. Cut's nerves begin getting the better of him, but Hunter urges him to stay the course. Just before Cut can give up on the plan, Omega arrives with the 5 counterfeit chain codes. It's at this point that Hunter informs Omega that she is to take one of the chain codes for herself and join the family in their escape. Omega expresses that she wants to stay with Hunter, but he urges her on with an assurance that it's for her own good. With a final solemn glance back at Hunter, Omega leaves, joining Cut and the others at the security checkpoint. Miraculously, despite everything else that has gone wrong, the counterfeit chain codes work and the LeQuains are granted safe passage off the planet. Hunter joins up with his squad mates, using his enhanced senses to deftly weave between the multiple nearby foes, neutralizing each with relative ease. Despite Echo's continued efforts, the ship's clamp is still magnetized and it seems unlikely the cyborg clone will be able to deactivate it. Wrecker, on the other hand, is able to employ his impressive level of strength to pry the boot from the ship, proving that, sometimes, brawn is better than brains. Just as the 4 clones are about to board the ship for evacuation, Omega calls to them, yelling to wait. As she sprints over, a nearby Reg catches her by the ankle and she tumbles over. Hunter leaps to her aid, neutralizing the clasping clone along with several other foes that try to prevent Omega's escape. Mere steps from freedom, Cut is stopped by a clone guard who recognizes the familiar appearance of a fellow clone's face. The chaos caused by Hunter and his crew proved to be completely necessary, as a call for backup draws the curious clone away from Cut, allowing him to join his family aboard the transport shuttle. With all members of the team accounted for, the Bad Batch boards their ship and departs. Safely off-planet, Wrecker performs some bicep curls with a power droid, and Omega goes to speak with her surrogate father. She tells Hunter that she knows she made a mistake and that she still has a lot to learn, but that he doesn't have to get rid of her and that this is where she wants to be. Hunter admits to Omega that he's got a lot to learn as well, and that if this is where she wants to be, then this is where she'll stay. At those words, the two share in a silent, heartfelt moment, and that is the end of this episode. While this episode wasn't super eventful, it was sort of necessary in terms of plot and narrative. It's a bit tropey, mostly being about Hunter coming to terms with the responsibility of taking on a parental role for Omega. Even so, it was still fairly enjoyable and accomplished a lot in the way of world building. And despite being a young child, which is very often annoying as a character, Omega is actually pretty likable. Overall, I'm giving this episode an 8 out of 10. I'm currently working on a similar video for episode 1 of The Bad Batch. If you want to be notified when that video is out, along with videos on future episodes, be sure to subscribe. You're also helping me feed my cat, her name's Marshmallow. Have a great day if you're here today, have a great Friday and a great weekend, and as always, thanks for watching.